1 down, well-known king of Brittany. 4 across, starting point of something that lasts. 12 across, city of the Beatles. 7 down, year of the Royal Albert Hall grand opening. I know! Born in 1871 in Liverpool, Arthur Wynne is the inventor of the crossroads. Arthur grows up in England, but he leaves this country at the age of 19 because his father forbids him to become a journalist. The young man gets across the Atlantic and settles in Pittsburgh. He works for the Pittsburgh Press and for a symphonic orchestra and plays the violin to keep the pot boiling. Years later, Arthur moves to New York and he is engaged by the New York World, a newspaper specialized in yellow journalism. But what is yellow journalism? It's a kind of journalism which uses exaggeration, born in New York at the beginning of the 20th century. The principle is easy. It uses big headlines based on nothing, it makes too much of minor news, it looks for scandals, it puts dramatic pictures on the front page, and if an information or an interview is missing, just make it up! Be creative! The point is to sell more papers than the concurrents, and this method is still working today. There is two explanations for the name yellow journalism. The first one says that these 2-cent newspapers were printed on a very cheap yellow paper. The second one says that this name comes from the Yellow Kid, the very popular hero of the Sunday comic strip, a young bald boy dressed up in a nightshirt. So Arthur works for the New York World, a paper bought in 1883 by Joseph Pulitzer, like the prize, who tries to turn it into a respectable paper at the beginning of the 20th century. In 1913, Wynne's editor wants to add a new mental exercise in the fun section of the Christmas issue. Arthur thinks about his childhood and remembers a game called the Magic Squares, a kind of puzzle based on words which must be put in the right order to be read both across and down. For the historical anecdote, a similar game existed in Pompeii, in Latin. Wynne keeps the principle of the horizontal and the vertical lines, but he designs a bigger grid, he adds black squares, and he doesn't give the words but clues to guess them. He calls this creation Word Cross Puzzle because the words intercross, and few weeks later, because of a printing mistake, this name becomes Crossroads. The first Crossroad grid is published on December 21, 1913. It's diamond-shaped and the word fun is written in it. Arthur, who has a good sense of humor, refers to his own game in one of the clues. What this puzzle is? Hard. The Crossroad is a hit, which can seem strange today, but don't forget that the PlayStation 4 was released 1 century later. As the readers are very enthusiastic about Wynne's game, not patented by the New York World, many other newspapers start to use the crossword puzzle. In 1921, Arthur Wynne passes the deal to Margaret Pursebridge, who is in charge of creating the grids and who creates several rules to ease the resolution of the crosswords, rules that are still in use today. In 1922, the crosswords appear in a comic strip, which means that they are a part of the daily life of millions of American people. In 1924, the first crosswords puzzle book is printed. It is sold with a small pen, and 400,000 books are sold within few months. And this mental game becomes more and more popular. In 1925, the New York Public Library notes that the craze for the crosswords is so big that hundreds of fans rush for dictionaries and encyclopedias. But Wynne's invention is not accepted unanimously. Time magazine says that they will disappear before the end of the year 1925, and the New York Times criticizes them, saying that they are childish and boring. Before it puts grids in its edition in 1942. And the Times crosswords are still very popular today. Only fools never change their minds. And speaking of the 40s, did you know that the Allies recruited cryptologists thanks to a crosswords competition? Arthur Wynne's creation, which still impatients cruciverbalists around the world, enters the digital world in 1997 thanks to Crosswords Weaver, a crossword software which allows a user to create his own grids. And in 2013, Google paid a tribute to the first crosswords puzzle for its 100th anniversary. If the crosswords are still there today, Arthur Wynne passed away in 1945, after he retired in Florida. I told you that it was the law.